Hi guys, welcome back to yet another fun DIY video here aboard good old Athena. In case you're not familiar with my channel, this lovely looking hunk of fiberglass here behind me is Athena. She's a 1987 Warrior 38, and as you can see, I'm in the middle of sprucing her up a little bit. Over the last couple of weeks I've been patching holes here on the cabin tub, and I'm here today to start prepping the surface so that I can start sanding it and hopefully start fairing it this coming weekend. Before we get to the glorious sanding, let's go ahead and take a look at what I hope is going to save me a lot of time when it comes time to fair the cabin tub. Ta-da! More tools, a mountain of tools in fact. These are from a company called Flexisander, and they claim that with these tools I'll use up to 90% less fairing compound and reduce the amount of time spent sanding by 70%. That is a bold statement to say the least, but let's go ahead and get them out of these cardboard boxes and take a quick look. These three are for manual sanding, these are for fairing, and this guy is for lazy people. I'll include myself in that category. This takes angry pixies and turns it into, well, hopefully, sanding magic. We'll get back to these tools a little later in the video and take a closer look at them. I am so excited to start fairing the cabin tub to see what it's going to look like. And I'm also very excited to see if these tools live up to that bold statement made by Flexisander. Now, full disclosure, I have purchased some of these tools with my own money and some of them have been lent to me free of charge for the purpose of making this video. So yeah, now you know. But before we get to the fun part, there is a ton of prep work to take care of. Each of these tiny little repairs here on the cabin tub has a piece of peel ply on it, and I think a good first step would be to get rid of that peel ply. And I think that's also going to be the most enjoyable part of the prep work. Okay, I am not going to lie, that was actually a lot of fun. The boat has spent the last 2 years outside without being cleaned, and I've been walking around on this surface extensively, so I think a good next step is a quick vacuum. That got rid of all the loose stuff. Now, like I said, I've been walking around on this surface and I might have dragged oil or all kinds of weird stuff up on this. So before I start sanding, I'm going to wipe it down so that I don't just spread around the contamination. There is a bit of dirt here on the surface though, so instead of going straight to a solvent to degrease the surface, I'm going to use a bit of soap and water to get rid of this stuff first. That already looks a lot better. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but the surface already looks a lot cleaner. More than likely, I could just start sanding now and it would be fine, but given the obscene amount of hours I'm going to spend this summer fairing the surface, priming it and painting it, it would be insane not to spend the extra 30 minutes it takes to wipe everything down with some acetone. This won't take long, and it's just that little bit of added insurance that everything is going to work out okay. Now, acetone is a little bit tricky to use because it evaporates super quick, so you gotta wax on, wax off. And not only that, you also have to flip the paper towels. Well, I mean, of course, you don't have to, but in my mind, that's how you get the best results. So wipe, wipe, flip, wipe, flip, wipe. And then, of course, you can open them up, so you get 4 wipes per paper towel. It's Friday afternoon, the weekend is finally here, and that means I can get busy. Now, it's been a few days since I wiped down the cabin tub, but sometimes, you know, life just gets in the way. But let's head up and get started. Huh, look at that. There's some kind of dirt all over the boat. The boat was squeaky clean when I left it, and now there's this stuff all over it. This looks like some kind of moss. I'm guessing this came from the roof. It's all the way down the middle of the boat, and I can see it over here on the neighboring boat too. I am certainly glad I haven't started painting yet, because that would have been very annoying. Now this didn't happen last year, so let's just chalk this up to the fact that we haven't really had any rain for a month, and yesterday we had high winds, so let's just forge ahead. The first thing I want to take care of today is the little bit of tape that's left behind here around the port lights. Because I am going to be fairing and painting this surface, there is no need to be gentle. That was nice and quick, and now there is no adhesive left to clog up my sanding nets. I'm here to sand and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum. That takes care of the first rough pass here on the forward end of the cabin tub. Now, if you guys recall, last year when replacing the deck, I ran out of time and I ended up applying a little bit of primer to the sides of the cabin tub to protect the new laminate. This primer has been sitting out in the elements for 6 months, so that's 6 months of damaging UV light just hammering down on it. So just to be on the safe side, I've decided to go ahead and sand it all off. Well, that was certainly a lot of glorious, glorious sanding, but the top of the cabin tub is now all prepped for fairing. Quick little side note, I've been using these M480 sanding nets for quite a bit of time now, and they are freaking awesome. In combination with my 150 turbo and the vacuum, there is absolutely no dust. Last year when I faired the deck, I used 105 thickened with 407. This year, we're going to try something a little bit different. This is also a product from West System. It's from their Pro Set series, and it is a low-density fairing compound. I really liked working with the thickened 407, but this stuff should have a couple of advantages. It should be quicker to mix, as it's just a matter of taking one part of this and one part of that by volume and then scraping and smushing them together. One of the slightly annoying things about working with 407 besides the mixing is the fact that it can be difficult to achieve uniform consistency across batches, but with this stuff, that should almost be guaranteed. I purchased this stuff at HF Industry and Marine here in Denmark, and I'll include a link for their website in the description. This is the disclaimer portion of this video. I have never, nor will I ever, claim to be some kind of fairing expert. I am an amateur, and the only thing I've ever faired before is the deck here aboard Athena. Now, with that out of the way, let's give this a go. Ta-da! This is what the cabin tub looks like with one layer of fairing compound on there. Like I mentioned, I am no fairing expert, and I do see some potential issues here, but I'm gonna refer judgment until I've gone through the first round of sanding so that I can actually see what the low spots are like. Looking at the surface here, I see some track marks, one here and one here, and they're roughly the width of this tool apart. I think I need some more practice with this thing. I can't explain those track marks, but maybe it was because I was holding the tool at too shallow of an angle or too steep of an angle. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's my own dang fault. Luckily, it's nothing a bit of sanding and some extra fairing compound won't fix, but I'm gonna drop Flexisander an email and show them this video so that they can give me some constructive feedback. Apparently, the guy that invented these tools got his inspiration from the windshield wiper of a car, and you can see this is kind of a similar construction. I've been at it a few more hours here on the side of the cabin tub, and I think my mistake on the top of the cabin tub might have been to apply too much pressure. No matter the reason for those streaks here on the cabin tub, like I mentioned, it is no big deal. It's just a matter of doing a bit of sanding and some more fairing. But I wanted to show you guys these. These are cheap cutting boards from IKEA. This kind, finfordela. I'm sorry anybody from Sweden, I probably butchered that. But these are what I'm using for mixing up the fairing compound on. The fairing compound isn't fully cured yet. As you can see, it's still very soft. But I'm hoping once it is fully cured, I can simply just snap it all off of here and get more than a single use out of these. I'm not really too pleased with the progress I've made so far this weekend, but I guess not all weekends can be winners. It's getting pretty late, so I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning.
Good morning, guys. It is Sunday morning, and today promises lots and lots of sanding. I was at it for 12 hours yesterday, so even though I'm not completely satisfied with the progress that I've made this weekend, I can certainly say that it's not for a lack of trying. But let's go ahead and take a look at the cabin tub. The fairing compound is fully cured and there is no sign of amine blush, so that's nice. Now before we get to the obligatory sanding portion of today's festivities, there's something else I want to touch on. In response to my last video, I got a few comments saying that the new cleat might be too low of a profile. To give that a little bit of a test, I've picked up 3 different thicknesses of mooring lines. These are 14, 16 and 18 millimeters. The manufacturer recommends that this be used for boats in the 33 to 39 foot range, the 39 to 46 foot range, and the 52 to 59 foot range. The 14 millimeter has a braking load of a little over 4 tons and the 18 millimeter has a braking load of a little over 7 tons. When talking about mooring lines, one concern is braking load, another one is chafing, and overall I don't think I would feel safe tying Athena up with something like this 14mm line. There's a lot to this topic, and this could very easily be its own dedicated video, because are you going to tie up alongside a dock where you have multiple lines that are going to be able to share the load, or are you at an anchorage? Now, I'm no great expert, so what I propose is that we have a little bit of a discussion down in the comments section. So if you've got an opinion, go ahead and share it down there. And I think the question is going to be, what line, and specifically what line, not just a thickness, but specifically what line would you use to tie up a boat like, let's say, Athena? That way we all have a common point of reference. Of course, the reason I picked up these 3 little samples here wasn't to start discussing mooring lines, but to see how they would fit on the cleat. This is the 18mm line on there, and well, as you can see, that doesn't look all that bad. I've gone ahead and added the 16mm line on top of the 18mm line, and this is what that looks like. Maybe I should go ahead and order the cleat that's 1 size bigger than this, but while messing around on the German website, I came across an alternative made by the same manufacturer. This is a 26cm cleat, and this is a 30cm cleat. The funny thing here is that this is roughly 55 euros, while this is roughly 36 euros. Sure, this has a little bit of a nicer finish than this, but I don't mind the look of this bigger cleat, especially not when this is more affordable, and this bigger size is bigger than the old cleats. Sure, the amount of clearance in here is a little bit lower than here, but as you saw with my examples with the lines, that doesn't look like it matters too much. This is the bigger cleat with the 18 and the 16mm lines on there, and I would say this looks perfectly acceptable. Well, it looks super messy, but perfectly acceptable. And just for a quick comparison, this is with just the 18mm line on there. I was all set to get started sanding, but it turns out there's something I'm missing. Something that is kind of essential: sandpaper in the correct sizes. I was sure I had a big box of varying sizes here aboard Athena, but fortunately not all is lost, because in the box with this thing there was a single sheet included, so let's give this a try.
abrupt change in lighting, guys. It looks like summer is here. And that is what summer is supposed to be like here in Denmark. None of that pesky heat wave stuff. After just a quick test run, this thing is looking pretty promising. Now, this is just a quick little test run due to my inability to order sandpaper, but still, very promising. And also back here, given enough time and enough sandpaper, this should look pretty dang spiffy. I might consider myself a little bit of a poopy face for not having made sure I had the sandpaper I needed this weekend, but one of the great things about being in the middle of a somewhat extensive refit is the fact that there's always something else you can do. In this case, I can get the last bit of glass laid up here on the cockpit coaming. If I add 2 layers of this stuff, I should be up to final thickness here. In this, the bulk of the fibers are oriented along the 0 axis. So I've cut these two at 90 degrees to each other so that the 0 axis are this way on this piece and this way on this piece. Does that matter? Not even the tiniest bit. That repair is going to be plenty strong no matter what. I can easily tell that it's not as warm as it was a couple of weeks ago. The viscosity of the epoxy has gone way up, but we'll leave it here to heat up a little bit, and that should help a lot. At least Mr. Poopy Face can now cross that off of his list, and the cockpit coaming should now be ready for fairing. There are some other few minor things they can take care of. For instance, the holes from these old U-bolts that we clip into with our harnesses when we're offshore. Now, some of you guys suggested I should pick up some collapsible pad-eye thingies instead, and I really like that idea, so I don't need these holes anymore. This is a pretty thick sandwich construction, and I'm going to fill those holes with some 105 thickened with a little bit of 406. And just like that, another 4 holes bite the dust. The only major thing that's left for me to deal with here in the cockpit is this annoying thing. I haven't quite figured out how to glass that in place yet. But before I glass this in place, I want to take care of the hole from the old shore power plug. That is the hole that used to be right there, but it's going to be a lot easier for me to fair this without this in the way. I used peel ply on this, so I don't need to do any additional prep work before I start fairing this surface, which is nice, but I noticed a bit of the epoxy squeezed out underneath the peel ply here, so there's a little bit of a ridge, and I might as well knock that down before I start fairing. Of course, this is a completely flat surface, so I don't need the bending magic of this, but I figured if I hold this at a very upright angle, it won't bend. So let's give it a go. That doesn't look half bad. Of course, here in the cockpit, I'm not going to bother fairing all of these surfaces. The only reason I'm doing that up on the cabin top is because of all the sanding I did to remove the old nun skid. I still have a little bit of the cockpit coaming left to fair here, and the same on the starboard side, but I think I'm going to do that off camera, and then hopefully next weekend I'll have got my hands on the correct sizes of sandpaper and we can go nuts sanding. And next weekend let's also take a look at the moisture readings on the hull, because I've seen the comments from you guys asking about that. But yeah, I think that is going to be it for this video. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like. See you!